చేయాలి ఇది పెట్టాలా? చెప్పమ్మా. హలో
మ్యామ్.
అయిందా?
వస్తుంది మ్యామ్.
ఓకే, ఈ సైడ్ వెళ్ళిపోవాలంటే ఏం చేయాలిరా? ఇది ఓకే. ఇప్పుడు స్లైడ్ షో పెట్టాలంటే ఇదే కదా? ఓకే, సో టుడే we are going to వినిపిస్తుందమ్మా?
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
Okay, today we are going to discuss about RH isoimmunization. Okay, so what are the main blood group systems? You know, everybody knows about them. Are ABO blood group system, RH group system. Okay, and why ABO isoimmunization? Hello. What? So why ABO isoimmunization occurs immediately after ABO incompatible blood transfusion? Why not RH isoimmunization? Can anybody tell? Hello? Hello?
Ma'am.
So can anybody tell why ABO isoimmunization occurs immediately after incompatible blood transfusion, but why not RH isoimmunization? Because ABO groups have antibodies in them, isn't it? Inipistunda?
Yes ma'am.
So ABO blood groups, they have antibodies them. So antigen and antibody both, they will be there. So if the A group patient receives B group blood, so because they have antibodies, they get immediate reaction, isn't it? So, but RH doesn't have any antibody on it. RH RH group లో యాంటీబాడీ ఉండదు, ఓన్లీ యాంటీజెన్ ఉంటుంది. సో ఇఫ్ ఇట్ అంటే ఆపోజిట్ బ్లడ్ RH నెగిటివ్ రిసీవ్స్ RH పాజిటివ్ అయితేనే దెన్ సెన్సిటైజేషన్ జరిగి ఫస్ట్ దెన్ ఇమ్యునైజేషన్ జరుగుద్ది. ఓకే, సో దట్స్ వై ఇమ్మీడియట్ గా RH కంపాటబిలిటీకి ఇమ్యునైజేషన్ అవ్వదు, బట్ ఏబిఓ దానికి ఇమ్మీడియట్ రియాక్షన్ వస్తుంది. ఓకేనా? సో వాట్ ఈస్ RH group? If RH positive D antigen is present, then it is RH positive. If the D antigen is absent, it is RH negative. So usually in intrauterine life, the RH antigen appears on RBC of a fetus by 38 days of life, intrauterine life. Okay, so what is RH factor? It is present on the RBC surface, and it is a surface antigen which is present on the RBC. Okay, and incompatibility means if the negative person receives RH positive blood cells and develops antibodies to them, then it is called incompatibility. And coming to RH antigen system, so RH antigen system is a complex system and it contains 49 different RH antigens, but we have only few which are immunologically and genetically very important. Those factors we call rhesus factors. Those are 5 antigens. That is D, capital C, small c, capital E, and small e. So D is small d, no D antigen is not identified. If antigen is not identified, that is small d. Okay, so small d indicates absence of D antigen. So among these five, most immunogenic one is RHD. Then small c, capital E, and small e, and capital C. So will you please mute your systems? Hello? Hello? మ్యూట్ చేస్తారా మీ సిస్టమ్స్ ని?
చెప్తున్నాను.
మ్యూట్ చేయండి, నేను అడిగినప్పుడు ఎవరైనా అన్మ్యూట్ చేసి మాట్లాడండి. ఓకే, సో RH antigen usually it is inherited by Mendelian dominant pattern. So these are all things are a little bit high and there is no need. What you need to know is that RH antigen are encoded by 3 sets of allelomorphic genes. Those are D, C, and E in all humans. They are called RH locus, which are present on the short arm of the chromosome 1. That is enough for you. Okay, so these 2 points you have to know. And D is small d is amorphic. That means complete loss of genetic function. Gene function is completely lost, doesn't produce any antigen. So coming to the fetus inherits one set from each parent. If the fetus inherits this pattern, then it is RH positive, and if it like this, and this is RH negative pattern. So person without RHD antigen is negative, RH negative person. So incidence of RH negative individuals, in individuals RH negative blood group. So in India, it is 5 to 10%, and Spain is 100% RH negative, and Europeans and Americans are 15 to 17%, and China and Japan, it is 1% only. So what are the types of immunization? We know. So we know is isoimmunization, autoimmunization, and xenoimmunization. So we are discussing about isoimmunization. That is formation of antibodies in an individual when he is exposed to the antigen from another individual of the same species. If they auto means formation of autoantibodies against one's own antigen. Xeno, different antigen, different species nunchi antigen ki antibodies vaste, then that is xenoimmunization. Now we are discussing about isoimmunization. So what is isoimmunization? Definition. So formation of RH antibodies in RH negative mother in response to RHD antigen from fetal blood during pregnancy is known as RH isoimmunization. So usually incidence of isoimmunization is 1 to 2% worldwide. And the incidence of the baby, the baby, if the mother is Rh negative and father is Rh positive, what is the possibility of babies getting Rh positive blood group? Usually depends upon the father's zygosity. So if he is homozygous, that is he contains DD, capital D's, which is 35% homozygous untadu. And then the 100% babies will be 100% Rh positive untaru. If the father is heterozygous, that is 16.5% of the positive blood group will be D, capital D and small d untundi. So then 50% chances of babies getting Rh negative and 50% Rh positive. Is it possible for the Rh positive mother and if the mother also Rh positive and father also Rh positive, is it possible for the baby to get Rh negative blood group? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. How? If the mother is like Rh positive, but it is heterozygous, and father is also Rh positive heterozygous, then there is a 25% of chances of babies getting Rh negative baby. Okay. And then what are the causes for the isoimmunization? How the isoimmunization occurs? So pregnancy, before pregnancy, if she has accidentally taken mismatched blood transfusion, then she may be sensitized before pregnancy, and once she gets pregnancy, so immunization occurs. Second dose of inoculum will go and immunization will occur. So what is grandmother theory? Can anybody tell about grandmother theory? Okay, grandmother theory means the present mother, like present Rh negative mother herself had a Rh positive mother. Then she might have exposed to Rh blood cells in utero. She is in uterus of her mother, so she is exposed to Rh positive blood cells, and she may be sensitized in uterus itself. And then she may get immunized once she gets pregnant. First pregnancy itself, she will get immunization. So that is grandmother's theory. So most common cause is the feto-maternal bleed during pregnancy. Okay, during pregnancy, feto-maternal bleed. That is the most common cause. 99.3% of cases will have feto-maternal bleed. Normal gane less than 4 ml into the feto-maternal bleed into the maternal circulation. So let us discuss about the causes for the feto-maternal hemorrhage. Okay. So early pregnancy, during early pregnancy, the causes are spontaneous abortion. 1.5 to 2% cases isoimmunization outundi spontaneous abortion lo, and induced abortion lo 4 to 5%, because we will be curating and suctioning and we will manipulate the intrauterine ga manipulations chestam kabatti more chances of getting isoimmunization if the patient is Rh negative and abortion is induced. And in case of molar pregnancy, partial mole, that is partial mole, not in the complete mole, because partial mole lo fetus tayarutundi, and partially mole and fetus also, fetal component also will be there. So that's why isoimmunization also. But in complete mole, there won't be any fetal component, only molar tissue untundi kabatti there will not be any chances of isoimmunization. So other causes are missed abortion. Missed abortion more than 7 weeks tarvata, ectopic pregnancy more than 7 weeks tarvata aithe the isoimmunization ravatani chances untai. And procedures like intervention, invasive procedures like chorionic villi sampling, amniocentesis, cardocentesis, embryo reduction in case of IVF, and 5% chances of immunization will occur in these invasive procedures. So we have to be careful, and unless it is indicated, you should not attempt these procedures in Rh negative pregnant mother. Okay. So what are the conditions that increase feto-maternal bleed are most common? Normal delivery appudu 15 to 60% of chances of isoimmunization, that too during third stage of labor. Okay. So intrauterine manipulations third stage of labor, and other intrauterine manipulations like internal podalic version, in retained placenta, manual removal of placenta. Those are internal manipulations, intrauterine manipulations, or maternal trauma, blunt trauma, or external cephalic version, APH, cesarean section, and multiple pregnancies, stillbirths, and IUD. Also, all these the causes. The most common is during labor, third stage lo most common, 15 to 10% of cases lo feto-maternal bleed ఎక్కువ ఉండి immunization అవుతుంది. Sensitization in the, if it is first pregnancy, sensitization, and then second pregnancy, immunization అవుతుంది. And what are the types, what are the tests to detect the feto-maternal bleed? So usually we clinically in day-to-day practice, we are not doing all these things, but theoretically you have to know. So because you have to write the theory exam also. So these are the tests, that is KB acid elution test, prostate test, and other is flow cytometry, and detects it detects Rh positive cells, and another one is enzyme linked antiglobulin test and FISH. So first KB acid elution test, here we detect the fetal hemoglobin. Why? Fetal hemoglobin is resistant to the acid denaturation. If the acid is added to the sample, acid citrate buffer is added to the sample, it removes the maternal hemoglobin, but not the fetal hemoglobin. And then we have to stain with, fix with alcohol and stain with, stain cheste. The fetal blood cells will appear dark pink in color, and whereas the maternal blood cells will appear pale. We call them ghost cells. So, and the calculation of how much of the blood is bleed occurred, and this is the formula. And maternal blood volume into maternal hematocrit into fetal cells divided by fetal hematocrit. So, or else you can say under microscope, 80 cells per 50 fields indicates a feto-maternal bleed of 4 ml. That is enough for you. And then other test is flow cytometry. Here we, whenever the size of feto-maternal, if we expect more big, large size of feto-maternal bleed, then we have to go for flow cytometry. Here we detect Rh positive cells ne detect chestam. Instead of cells, Rh positive cells ne we can detect them. This is a quantitative test, quantifying test. Another is, this is also quantifying test. And factors that affect the rate of immunization. Which factors will increase the rate of immunization? Those are among almost as a pregnancy, like it is depending upon the amount of feto-maternal bleed. If it is less, it is only 0.1%, only 3%. 5 ml is 65%. If the inoculum is large, the incidence of immunization will be more. And another one is strength of the antigenic stimulus. It depends on the genotype of the fetal blood. If it is DD, small, big D and small d, compared to that, and double D ki, homozygous daniki, more antigenic stimuli, strength will be more. So more effective isoimmunization will occur. So another one is inherited inability to respond to the antigen stimuli. That may be due to pregnancy related immunosuppression, or sometimes genetically mediated immunosuppression vallana 30% of cases lo non-responders untaru. So other one is associated ABO incompatibility. This decreases the incidence of isoimmunization of about 50 to 70%. It occurs in, if the mother is O negative, and father is A or B or AB positive, then the incompatibility, because of ABO incompatibility, the antibodies will attack on these A or B or antigens, and then neutralizes neutralize అయిపోయి RH factor మీదకి వెళ్ళకుండా, so that will save the 50 to 70%, decreases the incidence. Okay, So another one is gestational age. As gestational age increases, the incidence of isoimmunization also increases. From first trimester 3%, second trimester 12%, and third trimester is 65% of chances. Why? As the pregnancy advances, the fetus develops fetal reticuloendothelium system will mature. So mature fetal reticuloendothelium system mature అయితే అది ఐడెంటిఫై చేసి హిమోలైసిస్ అవుతుంది. హిమోలైసిస్ జరిగి మనకి ఐసోఇమ్యునైజేషన్ బయటపడుతుంది. సో అదర్ వన్ షార్ట్ ఇంటర్వెల్ బిట్వీన్ ప్రైమరీ అండ్ సెకండరీ సెన్సిటైజేషన్. సో ఫస్ట్ ప్రెగ్నెన్సీ సెన్సిటైజ్ అయింది అండ్ ఫస్ట్ somehow she sensitized, maybe she had abortion at fourth weeks of pregnancy, she had abortion and she conceived immediately, and the chances of isoimmunization will be less compared to the if she conceived she had primary sensitization occurred now today, and then she conceives after 1 year, then the incidence will be more isoimmunization. So shorter interval, lesser risk. So insufficient placental transfer of fetal antigen or metal antibodies. Okay. And pathophysiology of the isoimmunization. How the isoimmunization occurs. So it occurs in 2 stages. That is sensitization and immunization. So once again, sensitization is primary sensitization and secondary sensitization. Okay. So in primary sensitization, that is the first time the Rh negative mother is exposed to the Rh positive fetal blood. That is primary sensitization. The critical sensitizing volume of fetal blood, fetal bleed is, fetal-maternal bleed is 0.1 ml. And then primary immune response. Once the first time the patient, the Rh negative mother is exposed to the Rh positive fetal blood, then what happens? Usually that response will be very weak, and it takes 6 weeks to 12 months. Average is to 12 to 16 weeks to sensitization, further sensitization. And as you all know, first IgM saline antibodies will be produced, which have larger molecular weight, 9 lakhs daltons, and so that's why, because of this large molecular weight, they don't cross the placenta, and so that's why first pregnancy will be saved. So first fetus will not be affected because IgM antibodies doesn't cross the placenta, doesn't cross the placental barrier. And this pregnancy, this first pregnancy where the first time she is sensitized, we call it as a primary sensitizing pregnancy. Okay. So what happens? Secondary sensitization and immunization. So that is in second pregnancy. It occurs during second pregnancy. Occurs when Rh negative mother exposed to second antigen challenge. In second pregnancy, we get second sensitization and immediately immunization. So what happens in second pregnancy? Once she is sensitized, in second pregnancy, what happens? Already the B cells are primed in the first pregnancy. So the primed B cells will respond rapidly to the antigen exposure, Rh positive antigen, and produces the IgG antibodies, which have low molecular weight, and like 1,60,000 only. So they can cross the placenta and affect the baby's blood. So mostly the cell destruction, RBC destruction mainly occurs by IgG1 and IgG3 classes of IgG. That is important. Okay. Once it crosses the placenta, it binds with the fetal Rh antigen and then causes hemolysis and causes the effector. So coming to the Rh immunization effects on fetal effects on pregnancy, like fetal effects and maternal effects. Mostly fetal effects. Maternal effects are very less, mild, and mostly fetal effects. Among the fetal effects, we classified into 3, like mild effect and moderate effect and severe effect. Mild effect is congenital hemolytic anemia, which is 50% of cases we can see them. And slow here after delivery, the baby will develop slow hemolysis, and the first immediately after delivery, hemoglobin percentage will be normal and bilirubin percentage will be normal, jaundice won't be evident. So as days progress, the hemolysis will continue up to 6 weeks, and then afterwards, once the antibodies are not available for hemolysis, the hemolysis stops and baby recovers. So if this hemolysis is severe and baby develops anemia, then baby will develop the erythroblastosis fetalis because of anemia. That's extramedullary erythropoiesis zargi. So the baby will go into erythroblastosis fetalis, that is hepatomegaly, splenomegaly will occur. This is second mild moderate form of fetal effect, that is icterus graves neonatorum, and it is about 20 to 30% of neonates are affected. And at birth, no evidence of, here also no evidence of jaundice, but within 24 hours, they'll get hemolysis and baby will develop jaundice. So if not treated, the baby, the critical level, the bilirubin levels reaches critical level, that is 20 milligrams per dl, and once it reaches that level, it crosses the blood-brain barrier and damages the basal ganglia permanently, leading to kernicterus, and which will lead to the delay of milestones, permanent neurological sequelae like cerebral palsy and developmental delay, and hearing losses, sensory hearing losses will occur. So we have to be very careful in this case. Immediately after delivery, we have to ask the neonatologist or the pediatrician to look after the baby and manage accordingly. And then another severe form of immunization is hydrops fetalis. Okay, so it is due to severe fetal anemia. So here it is on 20%, less than fetal hematocrit will be less than 20%. This is a severe form. What is hydrops? It's a water collection, some fluid collection, abnormal collection of extracellular fluid at least 2 fetal body compartments, like pleural effusion or pericardial effusion or abdominal wall edema, scalp edema, or intraperitoneal ascites, and any 2 compartments unte, then we call it as hydrops fetalis. So how the baby develops hydrops? How it develops? Because of hemolysis, in fetal RBC hemolysis, the baby will go into anemia, and if it's not diagnosed at the correct time, so the anemia will become severe, and tissue hypoxia and papillary endothelial leakage, which edema. That is one pathway which causes edema of the fetus. Another is because of severe anemia, there will be extramedullary hemopoiesis to compensate, which leads to hepatosplenomegaly. And because of this extramedullary hemopoiesis, there will be hepatic parenchymal disruption and dysfunction, and which leads to hyperproteinemia and decreases colloidal oncotic pressures and increases edema of the, causes edema of the fetus and extracellular fluid collection. And another is umbilical vein hypertension leading to hyperplacentosis. So in these cases, hyperplacentosis also will be there, and which impairs the transplacental diffusion of the amino acids. Like that also hyperproteinemia vastadi. So hyperproteinemia in finally hyperproteinemia, portal hypertension, cardiac failure, all this leads to generalized edema, effusions, and fetal death finally. So this is the photo of the hydrops fetalis. And how will you diagnose? What are the diagnostic features? How will you diagnose the hydrops fetalis? So usually ultrasonography, we can see it. And usually if you have affected baby in previous pregnancy, you have to be very careful, and periodically we have to do ultrasonography to see the any signs of hydrops and presence of RH antibodies. ఏమైనా ఉన్నాయేమో చూసుకోవాలి. ఇండైరెక్ట్ హోమ్ టెస్ట్ చేసుకొని RH antibodies ఏమైనా ఉన్నాయేమో you have to elicit it. And then ultrasound findings ఏంటి? So polyhydramnios ఉంటుంది, increased abdominal circumference, increased fetal portal vein diameter, and edema of the blood, the body wall edema, and fetal ascites, pericardial effusion, and pleural effusion, and cardiomegaly, increased placental thickness. Almost thickness will be more than 4 centimeters with ground glass appearance. These are the ultrasound findings. You have to know these things. And X-ray abdomen. If you take X-ray abdomen, we can see the Buddha position. That is halo around the head because of the scalp edema. And appearance of the baby at birth. How the baby looks. Baby looks pale, edematous, and enlarged abdomen because of ascites and hepatosplenomegaly. And placenta will look large. Placenta will be larger than normal size and pale, edematous, and weight also more than normal placenta. So what are these are the effects on fetus. So what are the effects on mother? So usually the incidence is low, but they may get preeclampsia because of large placenta, polyhydramnios, and big baby, and hypofibrinogenemia, and PPH because of large uterus and hydramnios, polyhydramnios. After delivery, patient may develop PPH, sudden delivery, and maternal syndrome or mirror syndrome, another one. So how to prevent the RH isoimmunization? So how do you manage? So one thing is prevention, another thing is how management during immunized patient ela manages. So prevention, how to prevent it in the first pregnancy itself if the patient is RH negative. So we have to prevent by minimizing the feto-maternal bleed. So during antenatal period, so avoid invasive testings as much as possible, and avoid force during all procedures, and avoid per abdomen examination if you are suspecting APH, that is antepartum hemorrhage. So during antenatal period, during delivery, so practice immediate clamping of the cord so that a large amount of, don't squeeze the cord. So clamp it immediately, don't squeeze the cord. Keep the long cord, because if the baby goes into ectus gravidum, then you have to transfuse blood transfusion cheyalanunte, exchange transfusion. We need cannulation of the vein. So for that, we have to keep the cord long, about 15 to 20 centimeters, and avoid ergometin, that is methergin, so which causes vigorous contraction and retraction of the uterus and pumps the blood into the maternal circulation. To avoid that, so we have to avoid ergometin injection, and avoid the wait for spontaneous separation of placenta. Don't forcibly remove or remove the placenta. Wait for spontaneous separation of placenta. So during cesarean section, what precautions you have to do? You have to take to prevent the sensitization. That is, avoid or minimize the blood spillage into peritoneal cavity, and wait for spontaneous separation as during normal delivery for the placenta, and gentle handling of the uterus. You have to. So these things will prevent the minimize the feto-maternal bleed. And another is avoid mismatched blood transfusion. And another one is preventive active immunization in unsensitized mother. So nowadays we are giving routine administration of the anti-D injections during antenatal period and immediately after delivery. During antenatal period, we are giving anti-D immunoglobulin injections to prevent the immunization in unsensitized mothers. So first pregnancy lo ne istam. So what is anti-D immunoglobulin? Anti-D immunoglobulin usually neutralizes the Rh positive blood cells. Okay. So here postnatal in the beginning when the anti-D immunoglobulin is invented, in the beginning they used to give only after delivery, that is 72 hours after delivery. We used to give when we are studying, we used to give only postnatally, only 72 hours after postnatal period. So that time 50%, 15% of isoimmunization is decreased to 1 to 2%. So afterwards, nowadays in recent days, we are giving antenatal prophylaxis also, which decreased the incidence of isoimmunization from 2% to 0.1%. So this is the preventive measure, which is very important. And then how the this anti-D injection will help the patient. So what is the mechanism of action? So central inhibitory theory 1, that is antibody mediated immune suppression. Other one is anti-D antibody coated fetal RBC will be removed by spleen. Or another one is binding of fetal RBC with anti-D suppresses the primary immune response to RHD antigen. Another one, binding of anti-D and antigen will cause cytokine release. That also inhibits the activation of the beta cells, B cells. So these are the 4 mechanisms by which the anti-D will act. So we have 2 types of anti-D injections. Like now, what we use is polyclonal preparation only. Monoclonal preparation still under trials. So this is the donors we take. We immunized human donors. We take these antibodies, and it contains almost 30 epitopes of Rh antigens. And in this process, we the HIV, all infections, HIV, HCV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis A, human parvovirus, all those things will be destroyed during the preparations. So here, antibody-dependent cell-mediated cytotoxic action is better with polyclonal compared to monoclonal. So in monoclonal, antibody only available for the IgG1 and IgG. As I said before, usually in hemoglobin G, 1 and 3 are G1 and G3 are more causes RBC destruction caused by these 2 immunoglobulins. That's why the recent monoclonal, they are developing antibodies available for the IgG1 and IgG. But these are viral cell line lo nunchi tayar chesaru kabatti there will be inherent risks. So first phase 1 trials lo undi, not yet released. So importance, but it is very important to know the half-life of why we give at 28 weeks gestation another meeku teliyalante half-life of Rh anti-D is important. That is 24 days. Half-life of the Rh antibodies immunoglobulin is anti-D injection is 24 days. So site of administration, we all know IM, delta at thigh, or sometimes bleeding tendency unna valakite subcutaneous IV preparation gaani istam. IV preparation matram ion exchange chromatography lo prepare chesina anti-D ne IV preparation kinda vastundi. IV ఇవ్వచ్చు అన్నదాన్నే ఇవ్వాలి. సో అన్ని ఇంజెక్షన్స్ ఐవి ప్రిపరేషన్స్ ఉండవు. సో ఐవి ప్రిపరేషన్ ఉన్నదే ఇవ్వాలి ఐవికి. సో దెన్ కన్సెంట్, వెర్బల్ కన్సెంట్ తీసుకోవాలి, వెర్బల్ అండ్ రిటర్న్ కన్సెంట్, బికాస్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో ఎ బ్లడ్ ప్రోడక్ట్ కాబట్టి పేషెంట్ మే డెవలప్ రియాక్షన్ కాబట్టి బ్లడ్ ప్రోడక్ట్ కాబట్టి వీ హ్యావ్ టు టేక్ కన్సెంట్. సో వాట్ ఈస్ ద డోస్? కన్వెన్షనల్ డోస్ ఇస్ 300 micrograms to 300 micrograms or 1500 international units neutralizes 30 ml of fetal whole blood and 15 ml of RBC. So if we take 10 micrograms per ml, you have to remember that, because if you expect large amount of fetal-maternal bleed undi anukunnappudu, how much bleed undi dani batti you have to calculate. If the mother is accidentally transfused with Rh positive blood group, then you have to calculate the dosage of the anti-D according to how much you have transfused. Anadani batti mana anti-D ichukovali. So that's why you have to know 10 micrograms per ml. Okay. So or 0.5 ml of RBC. So maximum dose based on fetal-maternal bleed, we can give up to 1200 micrograms per IM 12th hourly until calculated dose is met. Every 12th hour ki we can give 1200 micrograms IM. in case of accidental transfusions. We are talking here. So other is how long the effect of first one dose of 300 micrograms of anti-D will last. So provides protection up to 12 weeks. 12 weeks daka it protects anti-D. So because it has 24 days of half-life. So if you give it 28 weeks, there is no need to repeat those anti-D injection until she delivers. Why it has why by 3 weeks after 3 weeks, that is up to 12 weeks, it becomes 150 micrograms, and then by 36 weeks 75 micrograms out the, and then 40 weeks up to still 30 micrograms untundi inka body lo. So that's why there is no need to repeat the doses. Once if you give 300 micrograms at 28 weeks of gestation until delivery. If her pregnancy prolongs after 40 weeks also, then we have to repeat the dose. If she delivers, there is no need to repeat at 40 weeks. So in case of MTPs, so what was all patients coming for MTP, you have to do RH positive, RH grouping or RH negative, and give the, if RH negative, you have to give the anti-D. That is 50 micrograms of anti-D for all first trimester MTP scheme. So according to RCOG, this is RAADP means routine and antenatal anti-D prophylaxis. RAADP. What does it mean? Routine antenatal anti-D prophylaxis. So according to RCOG, that is Royal College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. So they recommended 100 micrograms at 28 weeks and then 34 weeks, because we are giving only low dose. So 34 weeks we have to repeat, because by 34 weeks there won't be any remaining, the anti-D won't be there in the body. So that's why 34 weeks malli repeat chesukovali. So but ACOG guidelines prakaram aithe single dose at 300 micrograms at 28 weeks is enough. And risk of antenatal sensitization decreases from 2 to 1.1% by giving routine antenatal anti-D injections. So all mid-trimester and late pregnancy and postnatal sensitizing events we have to give for the non-immunizing patient postnatal ga you have to give 300 micrograms of anti-D injection. So postnatally, once again anti-D we repeat after 72 hours of delivery according to ICOG guidelines. And if you forgot to give within 72 hours, you can give up to 14 to 28 days daake ivvachu. So 50% of protection if you give within 2 weeks. Okay. If the patient is accidentally received RH positive platelets during pregnancy because of thrombocytopenia, patient developed thrombocytopenia for some cause, some etiology, and we have given RH positive platelets for her, then we have to give 50 micrograms per every 3 adult doses of platelets. That is 18 pools of platelets. 50 micrograms of platelet RHD ichukovali. Because every unit of platelet contains 0.1% of 0.1 RBC cells untai. 0.1 RBC cells every platelets lo untai. Even though we remove all RBCs, so this only platelet line 0.1% RBCs untai kabatti we have to immunize we have to give the anti-D to the patient if the patient receives RH positive platelets. Okay. And subcutaneous because this is a thrombocytopenic patient kabatti. And another thing, accidental RH positive blood group is in that nenu. So depending upon the amount, how much you transferred, and then get 10 micrograms per ml kinda calculate cheyochu, or 100 micrograms per 4 ml kinda calculate chesi. You have to give anti-D injections in dividing doses once in 12th hourly. Okay. If patients received more than 2 units of transfusion, then you have to do exchange transfusion must be offered to the mother. So in case of threatened abortion, so threatened abortion and enti, so patient developed bleeding, but pregnancy is continuing. So it is not affecting the baby. So pregnancy is continuing. So first we give the initial dose 50 microgram system, but still even after 12 weeks, the patient is having a bleeding. Then once in 6 weeks until bleeding stops, once in 6 weeks, we have to repeat the anti-D. So that is also very important. And after, if the patient delivers within 3 weeks of anti-D, 28 weeks, if you are given at 28 weeks, 300 micrograms of anti-D, patient delivered within 3 weeks, there is no need to repeat the postnatal dose of anti-D injection. Okay. If not delivered by 40 weeks, then you have to repeat the anti-D in the pregnancy itself, and then that is enough. If the patient have DU negative woman has DU positive infant, then also you have to give anti-D injections. Okay, these are prophylactic antenatal, routine antenatal anti-D injection prophylaxis gurinchi maatladunna, which is very important. So another, you will get the question on this prophylactic, routine antenatal anti-D prophylaxis mida meeku you will get the question, short question meeku dan mida. So you must know the everything about that antenatal routine prophylaxis gurinchi, you have to learn that one. So another one is antenatal ga patient ni ela manage chestav. So antenatal ga patient ni continue chesaina
కంటిన్యూ
ఇంకో 15 minutes పడుతుంది. ఓకేనా? నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్ లేదు కదా?
లేదు మ్యామ్.
ఓకే. సో యాంటీనేటల్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ ద RH నెగటివ్ pregnancy లో how the you will sensitize. It is depending upon whether patient is sensitized or non-sensitized. So sensitized one patient, non-sensitized ante first pregnancy, and also she doesn't have any abortion history and no blood transfusion, mismatched blood transfusion history, no platelet transfusion history. So there is no sensitive incidence of sensitization in ledu. That is non-sensitized patient. And sensitized ante first time she had a RS positive baby undi, or she had an abortion. We don't know the blood group of the baby. Abortion lo manaki nowadays we don't do all those things. So routine ga ichestam manam, but sensitized ayi undi. First pregnancy, second pregnancy aithe that is sensitized pregnancy. So in case of non-sensitized pregnancy aithe, as soon as patient comes to us to the antenatal OP, we have to do all primigravidas or paras women also. We have to do RH blood grouping and RH typing. If the patient is RH negative, then we have to do husband's RH grouping and RH typing also. If he is also negative, no further testing is needed. If he is positive, then further testing is very needed. If it is homozygous, 100% fetus ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి the pregnancy will be at risk. And heterozygous అయితే 50% of chances ఉంటుంది. And then you have to monitor the patient during pregnancy. So then you have to determine the fetal the heterozygous part లో అయితే you have to determine the fetal RH typing ఏంటో మనం డిటర్మైన్ చేసుకోవాలి. If it is heterozygous అయితే father. So how will you determine the fetal blood grouping and RH typing? We have two methods, like invasive methods and non-invasive methods. Invasive methods nowadays we are not doing, but for theoretical purpose you have to know that is an amniocentesis. In amniocentesis lo uncultured amniocytes తీసుకొని ఆ cells లో మనం we do the blood grouping and RH typing. Another thing is chorionic villus sampling, trophoblastic tissue తీసుకొని there we see the RH typing, and cardiosynthesis direct గా blood తీసుకుంటాం umbilical vein నుంచి direct blood తీసుకొని then we see the RH typing and grouping, which are all invasive procedures and chances of abortion will be more. So that's why we are not doing anything. And non-invasive method is maternal serum. We take the maternal serum and test for the cell-free fetal DNA testing. That is called cell-free fetal DNA testing, PCR method. Now we do it before 10 to 14 weeks time we have to do it. This is not available for us. Only IVF pregnancies like that, maybe not in Vizag, it's not available. I don't know if it is available in India or not. So cell-free fetal DNA testing. So we have to tell this only in the exam. So invasive methods also there, but we are not doing in Chapal. So another thing, so guidelines, how the non-immunized, non-sensitized patient is monitored during pregnancy. So that is in primary gravida. So first, as soon as she comes, prenatal visit before 12 weeks వచ్చినప్పుడు RS blood grouping చెప్పుకున్నాం. ICT చేస్తాము. ICT అంటే indirect Coombs test. Negative వస్తుంది. There is no need to do anything. Just monitor the patient and send her home. Ask her to come for regular antenatal checkups. And then at 28 weeks, once again we do indirect Coombs test. If it is negative only, we give anti-D. Positive అయితే anti-D ఇవ్వాల్సిన అసలు అక్కడ యూజ్ లేదు, యాంటీడీ యూజ్ లేదు అక్కడ ఇవ్వడానికి. సో ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఇండైరెక్ట్ Coombs test is negative only, we give prophylactic anti-D injection about 300 micrograms 28 weeks అప్పుడు ఇస్తాం. Then once again we do at 36 weeks కి మళ్ళీ ICT చేసుకుంటారు. And at birth also we collect the cord blood for RS typing and ABO grouping and RS typing and direct Coombs test చేస్తావు. If it is negative, no need to do anything. But 72 hours ki positive వచ్చుంటే 70 blood group, baby blood group positive ఉంటే 72 hours తర్వాత we give RS anti-D injection. Then sensitized mother. So she is Paris lady. She had RS positive baby in the previous pregnancies. Now we call it this sensitized pregnancy. So sensitized pregnancy ఎలా మేనేజ్ చేస్తాం అంటే routine same antenatal checkups క్రమంతో. Then we do the ultrasonography, dating ultrasonography చేసుకున్న తర్వాత routine గా ultrasonography have to repeat it, and genotype బట్టి we go for the free cell-free fetal DNA testing కి చేసుకుంటాం. If the positive అయితే further tests are needed. Fetal group is positive అయితే further testing is needed. Negative అయితే we leave it. So antibody titers we have to assess by indirect Coombs test or quantified autoanalyzer. అది recent one is quantified autoanalyzer తో antibodies ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయి బాడీ, maternal బాడీలో అనేది you have to estimate it. Indirect Coombs test. What we do is indirect Coombs test. And further follow-up is depending upon the Coombs test report and batti, we indirect Coombs test report and batti further follow-up మనం చేస్తాం. So if indirect Coombs test is negative, Paris lady with history of sensitization, we'll ask her to come every month. Every month you have to repeat the ICT, that is indirect Coombs test, up to 28 weeks. And then we give the anti-D if it is negative. And after that, once in 2 weeks. And then if it is negative, we'll allow the pregnancy till term. Okay. So if it is negative only. If it is positive, what happens? If it is positive, indirect Coombs test is positive, then we'll ask her for the titers of the indirect Coombs test. So what is the critical titer of the indirect Coombs test? That is 1:8 to 1:32. We take critical level averages, 1 is 16. You have to tell 1:16 is a critical titer of the antibodies. So at this critical level, if the test is positive, if the titer is below critical level, then we repeat the test every 4 weeks up till 28 weeks, and then 2 weeks till delivery. If the critical level ki below unte, positive 1:4 unte, it is positive. But critical level is 1:16. దానికన్నా బిలో ఉంటే పర్వాలేదు, దానికన్నా అబోవ్ ఉంటే you have to intervene, you have to terminate the pregnancy depending upon the findings. So below critical level unte every 4 weeks ki we repeat the titers until 28 weeks, and then every 2 weeks after that until delivery. If it remains same below critical level undi, then we follow the case by ultrasonography, repeated ultrasonography cheyalani cheppanu kada. So dantlo em chestam anedi is recent one. We are not doing any amniocentesis nowadays. So the recent one is ultrasonic Doppler. We see middle cerebral artery, systolic velocity చూసుకుంటాం, పీక్ సిస్టాలిక్ వెలాసిటీ చూస్తాం అనమాట. మిడిల్ సెరెబ్రల్ ఆర్టరీ పీక్ సిస్టాలిక్ వెలాసిటీ మనం చూస్తాం. ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ లెస్ దాన్ 1.5 మామ్స్ ఉంటే ఇట్ ఈస్ ఓకే. ఓకే, సో we monitor the patient by ultrasonography, fetal monitoring, ultrasonography, MCA, that is middle cerebral artery peak systolic velocity. Till the term we will monitor to detect the fetal anemia. Okay, so indirectly it tells about the fetal anemia. Okay, amniocentesis now replaced by MCA. So mode of delivery depends upon the obstetric reason, and the precautions I have already told, like cord blood collect చేసుకోవాలి, and squeezing of cord చేయకూడదు, length of the cord long ఉంచుకోవాలి, and separation, spontaneous separation wait చేయాలి. So once the baby is delivered, you have to collect the cord blood for typing, direct Coombs test, and HbS and hemoglobin, bilirubin level, reticulocyte count, and red cell morphology. All these things you have to see cord blood flow immediately after delivery of the baby. So this is quantization, quantification for auto analyzer. So these things for you it is not needed. And management, if the antibody titers are below critical level unte ala manage chestam manam. Previous ga ela manage chesamo, ultrasound lo MCA chuskuntu manage chestam. If the baane unte we continue till term. And then if the antibody titers are above critical level, that is more than 1:16, or significant rise in between, మనం చూసినప్పుడు రైజ్ ఏమైనా సిగ్నిఫికెంట్ రైజ్ ఉన్నా, ఆర్ ఆటో అనలైజర్ లో మనకి యాంటీబాడీ టైటస్ మోర్ దాన్ 10 ఇంటర్నేషనల్ యూనిట్ పర్ ml ఉన్నా, దెన్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు సీ ద యాంటీబాడీ టైటస్ ఎవ్రీ వీక్ ఇంటర్వెల్. 2 weeks చూసేవాళ్ళం, ఎవ్రీ once in month 2 weeks చూసేవాళ్ళం. ప్రీవియస్ గా ఎంత చేసాం మనం, ఎవ్రీ 2 weeks 4 weeks చూసాం ఫస్ట్ లో కదా. సో నౌ ఇఫ్ ద టైటస్ ఇంక్రీజ్ అవుతున్నట్టు కానీ లేదా క్రాస్ అయితే కానీ క్రిటికల్ లెవెల్ ని, దెన్ ఎవ్రీ వీక్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు సీ ద టైటస్ హౌ దే ఆర్ రైజింగ్ అన్నది. అండ్ ఎవ్రీ 1 or 2 weeks కి యూ హ్యావ్ టు సీ MCA పీక్ సిస్టాలిక్ వెలాసిటీ డోప్లర్ స్టడీలో ఫ్రమ్ 20 weeks ఆన్వర్డ్స్ చూసుకుంటూ ఉండాలి. ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ క్రాసెస్ మోర్ దెన్ 1.5 మామ్స్కి వెళ్ళిపోతూ ఉంటే యూ హ్యావ్ టు బి అలర్ట్ అండ్ సీ ఫర్ ద హైడ్రాప్స్ ఫిటాలిస్ ఫీచర్స్ ఏమైనా ఉన్నాయో చూసుకుంటూ ఉండాలి. సో ఇప్పుడు ఏమైనా అబ్నార్మాలిటీస్ ఉంటే, ఒక ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ రైజ్ అవుతూ ఉంది, ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ రైజింగ్ లైక్ MCV రైజ్ అవుతుంది, మోర్ దాన్ 1.5 అయిపోయి ఇంకా రైజ్ అయిపోతూ ఉంటే, దట్ ఇండికేట్స్ ఫీటల్ అనీమియా. దెన్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు డూ ద కార్డోసింథసిస్ అండ్ టేక్ ద hematocrypt value of the fetal blood, and if it is less than 30%, then you have to give intrauterine transfusions. Okay, intrauterine transfusions until the hematocrypt rises to 50%. So repeated transfusions also untai till 34 weeks, and then deliver the baby. So if there is so fetal MCA is less than 1.5 moms undi, so then serial ga you have to antenatal fetal surveillance చూసుకుంటూ ఉండాలి. సో అల్ట్రాసౌండ్ తో MCA చూసుకుంటూ ఉండి we can manage the case. If it is still 1.5 unte, then you can deliver her as usual, and if it is more than 5 unte, immediate ga deliver chesestaru. So management, isoimmunization effect మామూలుగా routine antenatal. So previously affected baby unte, how will you manage? So previous ga baby hydrops fetalis undi. So ee pregnancy lo ela manage chestamante same MCA చూసుకుంటూ వస్తాము, degree of anemia చూసుకుంటూ వస్తాము. Usual ga MCA we should not before 10 weeks. So if the baby in the previous pregnancy if the baby developed hydrops in 28 weeks time లో కానీ 30 weeks time లో hydrops develop చేస్తుంటే then 10 weeks before నుంచే మనం MCA మానిటరింగ్ చేసుకోవాలి. సో 10 weeks before the previous bad outcome. సో 30 weeks అప్ డెవలప్ అయింటే మనం 20 weeks నుంచే ఈ ప్రెగ్నెన్సీలో 20 weeks నుంచే హావ్ టు డూ ద సీరియల్ MCA పీక్ సిస్టాలిక్ వెలాసిటీ చూసుకుంటూ ఉండాలి. MCA అంటే మిడిల్ సెరిబ్రల్ ఆర్టరీ పీక్ సిస్టాలిక్ వెలాసిటీ చూసుకుంటూ ఉండాలి. బట్ ఇట్ షుడ్ నాట్ బిఫోర్ 16 weeks ఆఫ్ ప్రెగ్నెన్సీ కాదు. బిఫోర్ 16 weeks ఆఫ్ ప్రెగ్నెన్సీలో కాదు. ఇఫ్ ద ఫీటస్ ఇస్ డెవలప్డ్ హైడ్రాప్స్ ఇన్ ద ప్రీవియస్ ప్రెగ్నెన్సీ అట్ 24 weeks అనుకో, మనకి 10 weeks బిఫోర్ చేయాలంటే 14 weeks అప్పటి నుంచి చేయాలి ఈ ప్రెగ్నెన్సీలో. బట్ దెర్ ఇస్ నో నీడ్ టు డూ ఫ్రమ్ 14 weeks. సో ఆఫ్టర్ 16 weeks నుంచే బిగించేయాలి అలాంటి టైంలో. బికాస్ బిఫోర్ 16 weeks రెటికులో ఎండోథీలియల్ సిస్టమ్ విల్ నాట్ డెవలప్ ఇన్ ద ఫీటస్, సో హిమోలైసిస్ విల్ నాట్ అక్కర్. సో దట్స్ వై ఆఫ్టర్ 16 weeks నుంచి MCA చేస్తే చాలు. సో అది ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో లుక్ ఫర్ ద ప్రీ హైడ్రాప్స్ ఏమన్నా ఉన్నాయేమో చూసుకుంటూ ఉండాలి. సో MCA మళ్ళీ మానిటరింగ్ చేసుకుంటూ వచ్చి ఇఫ్ దే ఇది మోర్ దాన్ 1.5 వస్తే యాజ్ యూజువల్ బిఫోర్ ఎలా మేనేజ్ చేసామో అలాగే మేనేజ్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఇంకా చాలా ఉన్నట్టుంది. సరే, సో బిఫోర్ ఎలా మేనేజ్ చేసామో మేనేజ్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ మోర్ దాన్ ఆమ్నియోసెన్సిస్ చేసుకొని లిల్లీ చార్ట్ అని ఒకటి ఉంటుంది. ఆమ్నియోసెన్సిస్ డన్ ఫర్ ఆప్టిమల్ డెన్సిటీ అట్ 450 nanometers. టు నో ద ఆమ్నియోసెన్సిస్ లో వాట్ వి సీ ఇస్ ద బిలిరుబిన్ లెవెల్ ఇండైరెక్ట్ గా చెప్తుంది అనమాట. ఇది ఇండైరెక్ట్ గా హౌ మచ్ ఆఫ్ హిమోలైసిస్ అక్కర్డ్ అన్నది చెప్తుంది ఆమ్నియోసెన్సిటిస్ ద్వారా. ఆప్టిమల్ డెన్సిటీ అట్ 450 nanometers దగ్గర మనం బిలిరుబిన్ లెవెల్స్ ఎస్టిమేట్ ద బిలిరుబిన్ లెవెల్స్. సో బిలిరుబిన్ లెవెల్స్ ఎస్టిమేట్ చేసుకొని వి సీ దట్ ఈస్ లిల్లీ చార్ట్. వి కాల్ ఇట్ ఎస్ ద ఆమ్నియోసెన్సిటిస్ ద్వారా చేసింది మనం లిల్లీ చార్ట్ అంటాం దాన్ని. దట్ షార్ట్ క్వశ్చన్ ఒకటి ఉంటుంది మీకు అది. సో రోల్ ఆఫ్ ఆమ్నియోసెన్సిస్ ఇన్ RH ఐసోఇమ్యునైజేషన్ అంటే ఏంటి? It is a limited role in recent obstetrics because of 1% of pregnancy loss ఉంటుంది దీని వలన. So but it gives indirect picture of hemolysis as bilirubin is the detected, not the hematocrit value, and it is false positive also more ఉంటుంది. What we do is the optimal density of the Leica is observed at 240 and 250 to 700 nanometers wavelength దగ్గర. So at 450 nanometers దగ్గర we get the deviation bulge. So depending upon this we take the graph, like the optimal density at 450 nanometers gives the prediction of severity of the fetal hemolysis. We take the graph and we get the zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Zone 1 అంటే బిలిరుబిన్ లెవెల్స్ ఆర్ 0.02 నుంచి 0.7 దాకే ఉంటుంది, 0.07 దాకే. జోన్ 2లో 0.3కి వెళ్తుంది, జోన్ 3లో ఇంక్రీజ్ అవుతూ వస్తుంది బిలిరుబిన్ లెవెల్స్ ఇన్ ద అమ్నైటిక్ ఫ్లూయిడ్. సో జోన్ 1 అయితే మైల్డ్ అనీమియా, సో దేర్ ఇస్ నో నీడ్ టు వరీ అండ్ మానిటర్ యాజ్ యూజువల్ అండ్ ఫైండ్ అవుట్ నార్మల్ ప్రెగ్నెన్సీ. కానీ మోడరేట్ టు సివియర్ అయితే యూ హ్యావ్ టు ఇంటర్వీన్. సివియర్ అయితే ఇంటర్వ్యూన్ అయ్యి డెలివరీ అబార్ట్ చేసేయాలి. Wait a minute. ఓయ్, ఇదేదో రాలేదురా, స్టక్ అయిందిరా. తక్కింది కన్నా ఏంటో. ఉమ్? మళ్ళీ వెళ్ళిపోయింది. ఉన్నావా? షేరా, ఓకే. దీన్నమ్మా, దీన్ని పెద్ద చేయటం ఎలా? కనిపిస్తుందా? హలో,
ఎస్ మ్యామ్ కనిపిస్తుంది మ్యామ్.
ఇదిగో ఇదిగో ఇదిగో. ఏంటిది? ఏంటి చేస్తావు? రావట్లేదా? ఓకే. ఏం చేసావు కన్నా? అసలు పోనీ ఇలాగే చెప్పేస్తాం, కానీ ఇలా కనిపిస్తుంది కదా. స్టక్ అవుతుంది ఏంటో ఇది. చూడు మళ్ళీ ఇలా అవుతుంది. కనిపిస్తుందమ్మా?
కనిపిస్తుంది మ్యామ్.
చూడు ఏంటో చేస్తున్నావు నువ్వు. సరే వదిలే, ఏదో చేస్తాను. ఇది కదలట్లేదు, ఇది స్టక్ అయిపోయింది. స్టాప్ షేర్ నొక్కనా? ఎక్కడ తేరా? ఓకే. కనిపిస్తుందమ్మా? హలో,
మ్యామ్
కనిపిస్తుందా?
మ్యామ్ లేదు మ్యామ్.
రాలేదా?
రాలేదు మ్యామ్.
ఇప్పుడు ఇప్పుడు వచ్చిందా అమ్మా?
మ్యామ్ వస్తుంది మ్యామ్ ఇప్పుడు.
ఓకే ఓకే, సరే అయితే. ఇది అక్క అయిపోతుంది ఇక్కడ, ఏంటోరా. సరే, ఇక్కడ మారుస్తాను. సో లోవర్ జోన్ లో ఉంటే, ఇఫ్ ద లిలీస్ చార్ట్ లో లోవర్ జోన్ లో ఉంటే వీ కెన్ నార్మలీ continue the pregnancy till 38 weeks and do serial ultrasonography and repeat amniocentesis. These are all olden days things. So we are not doing amniocentesis, we are doing ultrasonography, MCA only. And then fetal monitoring by NCT, NST and CTG biophysical profile అవి చేసుకుంటారు. అండ్ ఇవి ఎందుకంటే రిలీజ్ చార్ట్ మీకు షార్ట్ నోట్స్ వస్తే మీరు రాయాల్సి ఉంటుంది, అందుకని చెప్తున్నాను అంతే. సో మిడ్ అండ్ హై జోన్ ఉంటే then will require cardiosynthesis and see the hemoglobin level of the fetus, hematocrypt and platelets grouping and typing, and just depending upon that transfusion we have to transfuse the O negative fresh blood. If hematocrypt value is less than 30, what we have to give is O negative, whatever the blood of the baby or mother, we have to give O negative fresh blood only. And the transfusion, what types of transfusions are intraperitoneal, intravascular, that is through umbilical vein, and transfusion can be given till the hematocrypt values are becomes normal, that is more than 50% koste, and to becomes prematurity, hematocrypt becomes normal till the risk of prematurity is crossed. Then under delivery, usually low zone and mid zone aithe, low mid zone aithe 38 weeks తర్వాత డెలివరీ చేయొచ్చు, ఆర్ హై మిడ్ జోన్ హై జోన్ లో ఉంటే దెన్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు డెలివర్ హర్ at 34 weeks of delivery, weeks of pregnancy by elective cesarean section, and arrange RH negative fresh blood for the neonate and transfuse after delivery to the baby. And you have to inform the about the delivery to the neonatologist to take care of the baby, and it should be done in the tertiary care center. And management during labor. So during labor lo ela manage chestamante, survey if the patient comes to you and for the delivery and she's not at spontaneous labor lo kellakapothe, then we have to do cervical ripening by Cerviprime, that is PJ-E2 gel, and the no oxytocin drip, because oxytocin itself causes neonatal hyperbilirubinemia. So we will get confused. Why? Because is it because of high doses of oxytocin, or maybe because hemolysis valla vachinda ani teliyadu kabatti. So to avoid the confusion, so oxytocin drip should be avoided in these patients, and labor is accelerated by ARM, that is artificial rupture of membranes. So cesarean section is indicated only obstetric indications, and also prematurity and severity and the urgency of the termination, but cesarean section will take it. And care during delivery aithe continuous fetal monitoring, no ergometrin after delivery of the baby, and follow all precautions of to avoid the fetal-maternal blood. What are the precautions I told before? So all those precautions you have to be avoided, and avoid PPH, and collect cord blood for the direct Coombs test, baby's blood grouping or RS typing, and hematocrypt values, and peripheral smear, and everything should be done for the fetal cord blood, and long cord తీసుకుంటారు. తర్వాత recent advances are these the things. Recent to detect the fetal blood group as early as 16 weeks. So you can do cell-free fetal RNA, that is CFF DNA testing test the maternal blood తీసుకుంటాం. So there is no invasion. So we are not invading the fetus in the pregnancy, in the uterus. We are not disturbing the fetus. So it is safe. And quantifying the antibody titers, instead of ICT, you can go for the autoanalyzer, calculate, quantifying. And flow cytometry instead of KB testing to know the quantity of the amount of the feto-maternal blood bleed. తెలుసుకోవాలంటే flow cytometry is a recent one. And another one is non-invasive detection of fetal anemia instead of amniocentesis and Lilly chart. Now we are doing MCA, that is middle cerebral artery peak systolic velocity rather than invasive amniocentesis and Lilly chart. And monoclonal and still in trials. And another one is IVIGG therapy. It blocks the fetal reticuloendothelial system and thereby prevents the hemolysis or blocks the placental transfer of the anti-D from mother to fetus. Only in cases of bleeding tendency unna vallake we give the IVIGG therapy. So this is about RH negative pregnancy. So you go and read, then you will remember more. Okay. So that's it. Okay, over, ma. Okay, over. So next class Monday, next Monday Padmalila madam will take, and after that Bailan sir will take the class. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, right.